Right.
Okay, so I just saying it was the moon that woke me up.
The moon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things, waking up, just how it happens. It's one of the mysteries of life, perhaps. We take it for granted.
Mm.
Mm.
Still looking very serious, Fiona.
Okay, here's a question. There's a moment between, in my experience, waking up and feeling completely at peace and serene for about 2 seconds, maybe. And then something happens and my belly just goes into a complete knot and we're off. And that's how the day starts every day.
I call that reincarnation.
Okay.
That's the moment when you put the Francesca suit back on.
Okay.
Perhaps you've already tried, Francesca, but have you just tried to pay attention to that moment to see what happens?
No, because I have tried, but it's already gripped my belly before I've had a chance to get in that tiny space between the beautiful piece of everything that is, and then the experience of pain in my body.
Presumably that's that 2 seconds of peace. That's the moment when there's no trying, there's no effort, there's no pull, there's no push, there is just pure being.
Mm. Yeah.
It's actually pretty amazing that you can recognize that 2 seconds. A lot of people miss that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just very aware of it. And I figured out was that it's the minute that the thought comes in, oh God, not another day, that everything just clamps down on me and sort of almost seizes up in my body, particularly in my gut and in my belly.
Did you hear what you just said?
No.
You said there was the moment of thought.
Oh yeah.
So if you change the label thought and call it story, does it change anything?
Yeah.
How is it different?
Because I have to find the story, so to speak. Whereas that split second there was no thought, there was no story. So it's like I must have to sort of open the book and then we're away. Whereas until I've got that book in my hand, it's just like no story.
But there is in that 2 seconds, we kind of have to imagine little bit, but there is actually experiencing in that 2 seconds, but It's direct experiencing. It's pure experiencing without the overlay of thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it feel like that for you?
Yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
So does it tell you that when thoughts turn up, that what they do is they corrupt that pure
Absolutely.
experiencing? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I said, there's that split moment which is just pure bliss, and then it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I imagined some time ago that when Buddha was talking about reincarnation, he was talking about this process that happens every morning where we reincarnate the story of ourselves and then we start reacting to that story.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so when he said is when you have enlightenment or whatever the words he uses were, that you no longer have to obey that story or respond to that story anymore. That it's not like you have a choice, but it is like you have a choice. It's a weird one, isn't it? But it's like that you are no longer compelled at an unconscious level to respond to the stories that go on. And now this is a tricky one because people think that therefore they're not going to have those stories, but they will still have stories. They'll modify, of course, but whether we engage with those stories, whether we feel a helpless slave to their demands, or whether we recognize them as just thoughts that turn up and we can go, that's the same as the breeze touching your cheek when you go outside. And you can ignore it or you can respond to it, but it's like there's no compulsion in any way. So you can see why people might call it freedom or liberation from that compulsion. Now, how do you do it? Well, you don't. You can't. You can only invite it and hope that it takes root and grows.
Okay.
But knowing that it's a possibility is like preparing the ground for something to grow.
So what
and
was
of course you can, sorry, go on, Alan.
No, go on, Vince, you finish.
I was going to say, you can see how most people don't even realize that it's a possibility. And so, of course, with that not realizing, they are compelled. They have no choice. They have no, well, see, words get in the road because it's not a choice. But yeah, they have no other possibilities than to do what thought demands of them, which is often pretty onerous. Oh, just getting out of bed, what an effort that is. And then I've got to go out and do stuff that I don't want to do, or whatever that particular story is.
So, Francesca, what was that thought again that you said you recognize? You wake up, it's beautiful.
It's like oh God, not another day.
Right. So do you see how when you first described it, this may be not true, but it seemed to me that here the thought came and you just slid into it and away you went. So the recognition of that thought or the power of that thought perhaps was we can be asleep to it. It'd be interesting now and then tomorrow morning when you wake up, if you catch that thought, just to see that it's there, as Vince said, they don't go away necessarily. They do sometimes, but it can still be there. But you're just conscious of that thought and just stay with the peace a little longer. As Ben says, it's not really a choice, but yet there's a choice about where our attention goes. It's a bit of a mystery.
Well, the thing is that you say to go to the peace a little longer, and it's like the moment that thought comes, and I remember it most clearly probably when I was sort of 11 or whatever, because I was going to a new school, and it was like, oh God, I've got to go to school today. And then my belly just went into that cramp feeling. It's like this, there isn't even a space between that thought and the cramp coming in, if you see what I mean.
Right. Well, you may have heard it stated that there's nothing to be done here, only clear seeing of what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're pointing to here. When you wake up in the morning, you're aware of the peace, and then something happens. Just clearly watch as best you can what's happening.
Okay.
You might find yourself taken away with it, and that's fine. Done it again. That's not a problem. But just clearly, this is what the looking is about. Have you been through Liberation Unleashed?
No.
Okay, so that's one of the things again and again is pointed to. Just look, just look at what's happening, and clear seeing of what's happening is actually all that's needed.
Okay.
There is a skill involved with that looking too. That looking is not saying think about. It's not looking with thoughts. It's not running around about looking for explanations or why things are happening, as much as it is kind of like looking like a camera would look, just an objective snapshot of what is there. Yeah, but I'd like to go back just before, so we can talk about that moment when thoughts turn up and it changes things. But what about the moment before that, when you're still feeling that beautiful, wonderful ease, that tranquility, that moment of peace? Can you remember that? Can you remember what that feels like? Even though it's only there for 2 seconds, does it impact you?
It kind of it's almost just like a sort of a blissful feeling.
So I want you to chase the memory of that. I want you to enlarge that in a relaxed way. I definitely don't put any effort into this, but it's like we miss those moments, and they do happen frequently during the day, often, but we miss them because they're 2 seconds long, and they get replaced by something that seems to be much more attention grabbing, which is usually something a bit negative or whatever. But if you can get a glimpse of what it felt like that moment, and just, how can I put it? Just swim in that 2 seconds of wonderful tranquility or whatever it is. Now, let's not use labels. It's way too subtle for labels, but let's look for that. And if you can locate somewhere in the body, I mean, it may be the entire body, or it may be more intense in a particular part of the body. If you can locate that and get that feeling, once you can get a hold of that feeling, we can allow it to spread and get bigger and bring that into this other place where thoughts are demanding attention, etc.
Okay. Definitely got something to work with there.
Yeah, but don't work with it, play with it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Play with it.
And hopefully this is not too much, but that piece that Vince was just pointing to, the
I
lovely,
can't quite hear you.
sorry, that piece that Vince was pointing to, it's a lovely thing to just feel in to see whether that ever actually leaves or whether it's just covered up.
What if we were to say that that is your fundamental nature? That is your true nature, and that other stuff that turns up, that is a corruption of that true nature. That other stuff that life has taught us about duty and effort and so on. All of that corrupts that true nature. So what Alan's suggesting is that is actually always there, even if it's hidden by this other stuff. But that, again, that's just something to experiment with, just to look at.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do. That is, yeah, I do. I really go with that, because there is that, as I say, that moment that almost makes it worth keep going, if you sort of mean. It's like, yeah.
I just want to add that sometimes there is an assumption that we're talking that the thought it's causing the clinching, but maybe what can happen also is that there is a clinching and the thought is trying to justify it in some ways. So maybe you can just watch, because often sensation and thought are really in two different dimensions.
Oh, what, they may not be linked.
Maybe not, maybe they are.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's the thought causing the clinch, maybe it's the clinch is up here and thought is trying to find some, some reason, some external causes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm interesting to approach it in a more open way.
Yeah.
I know it's sort of a thought, but it just keeps coming in and seems to want to be spoken. I think it's relating to what you said at the beginning, Vince, that every time you wake up, it's like reincarnation. This is a story, but it just kind of takes me back. It just makes me think of the amount of labels that come in when you wake up. Like there's just all those assumptions. So years and years ago, I was in a stone circle on a really hot day in a place that I didn't know. I'd never been there. So it was a very unusual place. And I fainted. I totally fainted. Boom, just fell back, fainted. And then I came to, and the feeling of coming to was so unbelievably sublime. But it's like I had no reference where I was, because I was in such an unusual place. I was like on the middle of a stone circle at a place I'd never been before. So there was no reference of like, even having a body. I didn't seem to have a reference of that in that moment. I certainly didn't have references like I'm in my bed, in my bedroom, or I'm just imagining what it could be like when you wake up, just literally those kind of, I've got a body, like none of that was there. Anyway, that actually just takes me back to when it was incredibly beautiful, but there was just something about waking up from having actually fainted, removed labels of anything.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Mm.
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 And if there's no anxiety that comes from that lack of orientation, that that not knowing where you were for that moment was fine, it wasn't anxiety producing,
Mm.
then you're in heaven. That's absolutely beautiful. There is no demands at all on you at that moment. There is just pure existence. Lovely. Yeah.
Annabelle, you used the word referencing. It really struck here. The word referencing. You said there was nothing to reference to.
Ah, did I? Okay. Yeah, there was something like that. Like they're just, I know in this kind of arena we use the word labels, but it was like there was nothing.
Right.
It was
So-
more like, I don't know, being in Star Trek or something and having been beamed somewhere, like just.
So here's a proposition. What if this belief in the me, this I that we refer to, is a fictitious reference point, that it's so ingrained in us that we've never thought about the impact of that.
Totally.
Labels are interesting in themselves. Labels on the surface, we think a name we give something, but there's implicit in that name is a whole lot of other stuff, including whether it's good or bad, whether it's all sorts of things. You know, every society has added meaning to labels that that make them more than just a name or a description. Yeah. But it brings me back to this thing I've been buzzing on myself quite a bit just lately, and that is that the world that we're looking for with this being awake is the world that exists underneath labels, behind labels. It's the world that exists at a level that is way too complex and subtle for words to do justice to. They can't. They simply, so here we are, we're down at a level where all we can go is, oh, there's no way of doing anything other than that with them, simply because it's and then when we come back up into a world where we can talk about it, we're back up in that unreal world of concept, where we're in that world of words and concept, and it's fake. It's superficial. It's simplistic. Yeah. It's like no matter how much I talk to you about love, it can't convey what a hug can convey.
So both you, Annabelle, well, I was just going to say, just both you, Annabelle, and Francisca have talked about that labelless state. It's not a state. It's a ground of being, for want of another term. It's indescribable, but without I think I can say without a shadow of a doubt, you know what I'm pointing to there, both of you in your own experience, and what Vince is talking about. Sorry, did I interrupt someone there? Was that you, David?
Yeah, I wanted to come back because we talk about awakening in the morning, right? When we awake in the morning, and often when we, I'm not sure we speak about the same thing, because often when people speak about I awake in the morning, they are already not seeing a lot of layers coming up in their experience. Like, I have this paper, right? That there is a lot of paper here, right? And it starts just often when you wake up, you are already here, right? There is already all of this behind you. And you wake up, it is pink, and you say, oh, I am a person. This is the room. There is a physical universe. I just open my eyes and here I am again, right? But behind this thought, there is all of this layer behind. And the more you go back, you can kind of wake up earlier than what you think is possible. And the more you wake up earlier, the more peaceful you feel, because there is less and less layer. And at some point you see that you don't wake up, you just experience arise again. So in reality, we say I wake up, but what we really mean in that direct experience is here. Not here in a room, but the room is it's appearing to me. And again, this is time, like this is thought saying, recognizing the pattern. But when the mind cannot recognize the pattern, you have some kind of experience Annabelle is talking about. You kind of, it's a very amazing thing seemingly happening. But I think this is what I'm putting to it. It's more useful to really understand that everything is happening at the same moment, constantly. So nothing is hiding anything. It seems to, but everything is here. Just very important, because when you think it's in the past or it's gone, you are putting what you are seeking in the past, and you can never go there. But if you start to think in like everything is it's right here, right now, but there are just layers, it starts to be more accessible in that way. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really helpful. Thank you.
So we could say that this is very simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. But there's two things. There's our true nature, what we truly are, without any taint of interference. And then the second thing is to just find what it is that covers that up.
Mm.
But David said it, it's like that bunch of notepad leaves that they all just flood in instantaneously. But the beautiful thing about this is that we give attention to looking and clearly seeing what's happening.
Chance I can get a glass so I can drink water? Sorry? 77 kilos.
I wonder if we can mute. Yeah, there we go. I've muted Vince. We'll yeah. So there's the ground of true nature, what we truly are, and then looking for that which covers it up. And as it can be a little frustrating at the start, but one of the things that we find that when we just attend to that, it can somehow seem to slow down, and we can start to see things that we'd never noticed before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we need to do. If there is any doing, just watch what's happening.
Well, this morning when I woke up, I was really looking forward to going to this call, but I went downstairs first of all to get a drink, and I went outside, and there's a completely clear sky, and then all of a sudden I just shifted where I was standing very slightly, and there was this massive moon, and it gave me such joy just to suddenly see this by just literally shifting where I was slightly. And then I went in the kitchen, made myself coffee, came out again, and I thought, oh, the moon's gone. What's happened? The moon's gone. No, I just got to shift slightly, and there it was again. And it was just so beautiful, because I didn't even know I was going to see the moon this morning. It's just magical. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But where where was the feeling of beauty?
Where?
Where?
Feels like it's right in the center of me, somewhere deep inside me.
So it's inside you, right?
Yeah.
So it's not in the moon.
It is the seeing of the moon that caused this amazing sense of joy inside me.
You think it's, do you see that you are projecting this meaning onto the moon, and the meaning you are projecting is causing you the beauty that you feel? So both the meaning and the feeling are both inside you. The cause is somewhere, somehow inside you.
Can you say that again?
I ask you where is the beauty, and you say the image I see of the moon, it's causing me to feel something, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the even the interpretation you have of, oh, this is a beautiful picture, it's also inside you, and this interpretation is causing the beauty. But both the way you interpret the moon and what you feel are both inside of you. I know.
Vince, unmute.
You're muted, Vince.
Yeah.
I'm all excited.
Sorry, Vince,
When-
we muted you because the conversation that the staff are having.
When I went out there, yeah, I forgot these things also have a microphone. Yeah. So when David asked you where was the beauty, you could have said, oh, it's out there. The moon was a beautiful thing, but you didn't. You said it was in your body. But then David's going one step further and he's pointing out that it wasn't what was out there that caused you to have that feeling. It was what was in there, in you, that did the whole thing. And it was associated with what was out there, but it was your perception of what was out there that created that feeling of beauty.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. And why I'm pointing this is because what happened in the morning, the clinching is not because or you pity life and misery and hard day. It's the same as the moon. It's the interpretation and the physical reaction are both inside of you. That has nothing to do with the day. It's outside event.
Okay.
No, it's not the story that's taking away that wonderful moment. It's your response to the story.
Okay.
And of course, that's not what the story was about. It's not what's actually out there. It's not the jobs you've got to do or the dreariness of the day or whatever that might ever be. It's how you respond to those. And this is critical. This is really what waking up is about. What people say, nothing's changed, but everything is different. And that is because of the perception of what it is that you're seeing. So you're seeing the same thing, but from a different angle. And that perception, right, allows you to not cover up that wonderful place again. Yeah. Like Alan said earlier, it's simple but not easy. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not funny, but it is funny. It's hilarious, but it's not. Yeah.
just to take that a little bit further, can you imagine someone in seeing that moon being absolutely stricken with fear? Same moon, totally different reaction because of an interpretation that's going on inside them.
Wow, yeah. Yes, I can imagine that. Yeah, yeah. Because in fact, I'd gone out last night in the hope of seeing the moon as it was rising, and it was getting dark, and I was on my own, and fear started arising in me, and thinking, I really want to see the moon rising, and yet it's really dark out here. And so that's why it made it even more special seeing it this morning, because it was like, oh, I
When you
did
felt-
get to see it.
When you felt safe, it was lovely.
Yeah. But I couldn't be standing there in the dark thinking, I know in the next 5 minutes the moon is going to rise and I'm going to see it. I couldn't just wait that long. It was like, oh, I mightn't get home because it'll be too dark to see the steps down.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been out of my house for 10 days because I got COVID. So I was kind of feeling very vulnerable. So yeah.
So it's really interesting to consider why the rising moon is special, why the setting sun is special, why the waves on the shore are special. But how come the cup on the sink isn't just as wondrous as that? It is. It actually is. And look around, anything, just the flat wall on the other side of the room is just as wonderful. It is amazing. We just tend not to see those things. We look for those super special things and ignore the other stuff, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, Vince, I think this is what I'm seeing more and more, that event and experience is kind of neutral in a way. I mean, it's meaningless. Like there is no meaning in color. There's no meaning in my visual field. There is something projecting meaning on everything. Yeah. So and value, and I mean, but like you say, right, Alan, that if someone else have kind of a similar view of what I have, they will have another reaction, physical reaction, or the thoughts or their meaning projected onto it. And I think this is it's a very cool way to reapproach experience, to approach it that way, because it's more accurate. It's very interesting, because I think because at last if I can see this, I can I take back the responsibility where I can do something about it, But if if the cause of my misery is outside or in the past or in the future, well, you are just a poor victim, But if you understand that everything you feel it's inside you, well, at least you can start to do something about it. I mean, noticing what's happening more clearly.
How have you been, Fiona?
Not having the best time of it.
You want to tell us about it? And you're allowed to say no, of course.
I'm just getting caught up in just unhelpful thoughts around not having work, not having income. So I'm quite stressed, not sleeping.
Mm. Yeah, that's been ongoing for you for a while, eh?
Yep, it'll be 3 months at the end of this month.
Right. And is that 3 months since you lost the job you had? Since-
Yeah, they didn't extend my contract, so it was kind of end of May. I finished up working.
Right. Okay, not extending your contract's a bit of a slap in the face, isn't it?
Mm.
It's like they're telling you something about you, but maybe they're not, but it seems like that, eh?
No, not necessarily. They ran out of budget, so they let go a lot of people actually.
Right. Oh, well, it's good that it wasn't personal. And are you actively seeking another job?
Yeah, I've applied for over 30 jobs.
But not having any luck or positive feedback about it?
Yeah, I think once I stopped, finished up working, like the interviews stopped. So I was getting interviews. One looked really promising. But yeah, it just didn't come off, didn't get any feedback. Yeah, so most of the jobs that I apply for just don't hear back. Don't even sort of say that you are unsuccessful.
Yeah,
It's
just
kind of
don't
like,
contact you.
yeah, I think because the labour market just appears to be really tight. So there's kind of a whole lot of people applying, I guess.
Mm. Mm. So if you see that it's the labour market and it was finance, funding, and so on, it's not a personal thing. What's the hook into triggering you into feeling whatever you feel? But I can say things, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So this obviously this unpleasant feeling that you've got, what you've said so far means that it's not personal. It's not to do with you. It's just to do with the circumstances. Yet you feel bad about something. Where's the hook? What is the hook?
I think where it gets personal is that I have responsibilities in paying a mortgage, putting food on the table.
So how is that happening if you haven't got an income?
The little savings that I've put away.
And as they deplete, things get more
Yeah, it's just
serious.
increasingly getting harder.
Mm. So eventually you end up on social security, and then eventually you become homeless, and eventually you're under a bridge looking for handouts to buy food or going through the dumpster. whatever scenario we can come up with. Not good, any of it, is it? And you're helpless to do anything about it? You're doing whatever you can and there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, just apply. I don't know what else I can do.
Are you restricting your applications to a particular area, or are you? So you would take a job down at the local supermarket stacking shelves if that came up?
Yep.
Yeah, and even that's not happening, eh? Oh God, that dumpster's looking more and more likely, isn't it? Mm. Is it particularly bad in the area that you're in, or is that everywhere?
I don't know. I am regional Australia, so it's not. I'm not in kind of this one of the cities. But I've offered to sort of commute to the city, but that may not be attractive for hiring managers.
So what town are you in?
Wodonga,
Okay.
regional Victoria.
Yeah, I know where Wodonga is. That's a pretty big place, though. And you got Albury pretty close. But even so, that whole area is like that, eh? That you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want to commute to Melbourne, would you? That's a bit pretty big.
Yeah, I mean it would be quite challenging, but I mean I've offered.
Mm.
And so most of the roles have actually been in Melbourne that I've applied for. Also applied locally. But yeah, just don't hear back from them, or yeah, I'm unsuccessful, didn't get shortlisted.
Mm. Mm. So if it's out of your hands and you're just stuck, there's nothing you can do about the situation except what you're doing now. Continue to apply for a range of jobs and wait. What why would you still feel bad about things? What's keeping those unpleasant feelings going?
I don't know, just maybe the argument that I'm having with myself that it shouldn't be this way.
So would a fair analogy be that your foot's caught in a bear trap, and instead of waiting for someone to come along and help you open the trap and take your foot out, you're tugging and tugging and tugging at it, and every time you tug at it, you're causing more damage. Would that be a fair comparison to what this story of how it shouldn't be is for you?
Yeah.
But it hurts when you stay still, doesn't it? I mean, even if you don't try and pull your foot out of that bear trap, it still hurts.
Yep.
And you have no control over the stories that keep on going around about how it could be or how it shouldn't be, etc. Those are stories that just are there and you can't do anything about them. Does the idea of accepting the situation that you're in, whilst you continue to do what you can do, which is part of the situation that you're in, but accepting it as something that's outside of your control or your influence, that accepting it is something that might happen, but that doesn't have any effect on what's going on out there, what's not going on out there. It just has an effect of what's going on inside you. Has that idea occurred to you spontaneously? Have you thought of that acceptance might be, or maybe say the word surrender, but I don't really mean resignation. What I mean is kind of willingly living with the situation as it is. Has that idea occurred to you? Or has it just never even happened?
It has occurred, but it just has very limited life. It gives limited space.
Yeah, it doesn't have any power. It's just
it's the thoughts just keep on coming around, like the concern for the future.
It seems crazy though, doesn't it, that those thoughts about concern haven't in any way contributed to anything. Have they motivated you to do something that you wouldn't otherwise do? Have they been helpful in any way, those thoughts?
Probably applying and looking for more, but it's to a point that it's obsessive, and so when if I haven't seen any change in an hour in terms of like what's on the market and what I can apply for, then it kind of compounds.
So at one level, it's about having an income, having money to pay your mortgage and not deplete your savings. But on another level, it's about what that might mean. It's about your feeling of worth, your feeling of competence, you're feeling. It's about yourself. Besides the objective thing of it being about your bank account, so to speak, eh? Yeah. Has the idea occurred to you to find something to be self-employed? I'm not saying that's a way to go. I'm just saying, has that occurred to you as an idea? Have you thought about your own business as an
Yeah.
alternative? Yeah. That nothing's grabbed you. You're not going to.
Yeah, nothing's grabbed me, and I think there's a whole lot of stories about, I've done that in the past, unsuccessfully.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I keep on bumping up against that as well.
Yep, yep. There's only so many people can make candles and sell them or whatever. Mm.
There's a lot of candle makers.
Yeah, yeah. Do you get to share any of this? Have you got a husband or you got family? No, you're by yourself. So you kind of got to shoulder this whole load by yourself, eh? Mm. Mm.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Um, I remember the other week when I was in a situation, I think it was around my gums, Vince, and I was talking to you, and I remember you saying like something around like, can you really see that it's for you? Like, can you really see that this is happening for you? So, I think that's a really, for me anyway, it was a really helpful thing. It was like adjusting my perception of what this life is from the story and the making the money and keeping busy and all the plates spinning and everything that's happening on one level. And then on another level, there's like this persistent invitation to 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 go beyond that, to be in the difficulties so that we can feel, so that we can, it's like living on another level as well. And yeah, we can surrender to life and its difficulties and it's tough and things don't go right and be with that. And then for me it was like, and I can also actively collaborate with what it's bringing up, like the sensations that are arising, the fear, this invitation to maybe walk through that and find the monster under the bed, or really see where it's leading me in terms of what I don't want to see and what I don't want to feel and what I keep trying to cover up with making life good and easy and smooth and um and and especially when we can't do anything about it, like if there's no more jobs to apply for, and we've run out of ideas of what we can do. Can we, for me anyways, like, can I use this time to like be with what that's bringing? Like really connect with it, like really don't try and manage over the top of it. It is like a surrender and a collaboration with what else it's bringing up. And then there can be a little bit of gratitude for it being there because it's for me. It's for healing. There's nothing working against me to try and make life difficult. This is working with me to try and help me be free of the idea that it's difficult or that there's something against me. I don't know, something like that. There's something about the opportunity it brings to really to really get to it, to really get underneath all these fears of being homeless and abandoned and destitute and all that stuff. That is kind of there anyway, and then it gets revealed, so we can be free of it. So that helped me. It's like I always do that now when something happens. It's like it really is for me, and I guess I, you know, just shifting into that level of perception. And I'll forget, you know, and you're in it and it's still all terrible and it's all going wrong or whatever, but it's just coming back to that place of I don't know, working with it.
How does that go down, Fiona?
I'm not sure. Like it makes sense. And it gives me a bit of hope. But then I found that if I cling on to hope, then it sort of turns into hopelessness.
It's setting you up for disappointment, to be hopeful.
Yeah. It's something that Charmaine said, how it landed for me is it's just like where this is for me. It's kind of like life has been against me. Like that's the undercurrent. Like that's where the separation looks so real.
Mm. So that old one about if life gives you lemons, make lemonade doesn't work.
No, it's definitely something about me.
Okay, now that's juicy, that one is. Yeah. And so life, this objective thing that's happening around you is about you. Yeah.
Or the things that are not happening are about me as well.
Mm. Yeah.
So while I've sort of heard variations of, you know, this is happening for you, it's just never something I've been able to kind of
Yep.
like lean into.
Mm. Mm.
So it just sounds nice.
Yeah. Oh, well, it is nice. Yeah, but yeah. But
And I wish it was true.
I think there's like
go on.
there's like an inferred kind of assumption, like in our conditioning, that on a subtle level, like it's a given that life is against us, and there's something out there like that is against us, and like we're the ones that are pushing against that, on that assumption, like we've really got to try hard and make it work, you know, because nobody else is going to make it work, you know, and there's just like this little me that's up against it, you know, and it's very subtle but very convincing, and it feels like too much of a big idea to see that that's not the case.
Mm.
It's just been like an
Okay. Yeah.
assumption. And what if it's working with, like, for us? What if it really is working for us? And trying to help, and even though it looks like, you know, we interpret it as not helpful, not having a job, but we can jump to that conclusion, like it reinforces that assumption that it's against me. But what if that's not true?
Are you up for it if we dive a bit deeper here, or dive a lot deeper?
I thought we were already deep.
Well, we can go a lot deeper than this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sure. I got my
Okay.
tissues, so I'm all ready.
Great. Okay. I remember you saying once how it is your sense of identity that you've lost when you lost the job.
Yeah.
Right?
My
And that,
identity is really wrapped up in the whole what I
yes,
do.
right. But it's not so much your identity, it's about your identity. It's about your sense of worth, your sense of, well, worth is the best way to put it, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Makes
that sense of worth that you got when you had that job was relieving you from something that was already there, was already in you. So before you got that job, there was a sense of unworthiness. And that sense of unworthiness has been with you a long time. And there are just momentary things that have come along that have given you some relief from that. But that is what makes this so horrible. It's not about no job. It's not about your depleting bank account. It's about that you feel unworthy. And you've got no way of hiding from that at the moment. If you had a job, you could hide from that. If you had the right job, you could hide from that. But now you can't. You're faced with it. You're stuck with it. That's where the opportunity that Charmaine is talking about is, right? That life is offering you the possibility of looking at that inherent sense of unworthiness. And life is so good to you that it's not giving you an escape at the moment. It's saying, Fiona, this is it. Are you really unworthy?
Yeah.
And as long as you can remember, you've been unworthy.
Yeah, I think it would be accurate. I mean, probably in the earlier years of working, I was oblivious to it. But even in
But
my
it was
last role, like I couldn't hide from it. It was there every day.
right.
So even if I did find a role to keep me busy, I still think that there would definitely be an experience, a daily experience of it.
Well, do you think that it's fundamentally accurate that you are unworthy, or is it a feeling that's developed as a result of whatever circumstances?
It doesn't look like it's not a feeling for me.
It's something inherent in you, eh? Mm.
How do you know it's inherent in you?
Yeah, no, it just feels true.
At a deep, deep level, it feels true.
Yep.
So no matter what turns up, you could be offered a job of CEO of the world, and it would simply cover up what is there. It wouldn't change what is there. It would just cover it up, eh?
I don't know. I think I'd have a whole lot of thinking around, am I worthy of the job?
Right. So it wouldn't even cover it up. It would just,
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of, yeah, like the ego isn't like, yeah, okay, I'll take the job. Cool, I'm off. Solve my problem. I think it activates the whole thing.
right. Okay, yeah. So it makes it even worse in a way.
Have you ever seen a baby or hold a really newborn in your hands? No, but you have seen babies. When you see baby, what do you feel when you see a baby? Or if you imagine a baby right now,
Peace, I guess.
Peace.
Happiness.
Happiness. And do you think the baby is worth something? Yeah. Why?
Just because. I don't think
Just
it has a
because?
reason.
And there's no reason.
Mm.
You were a baby at some point. So even if you don't remember, there is a part of you who knows that it's valuable for no reason, even if you're not in contact with it at the moment. I know now it's unlogical, but it can maybe be, like if for a second you can perceive yourself as a baby and see yourself as a baby, you can maybe feel this, there is value just because. There is no need to have reason for someone to be valuable.
Are you stuck in the idea that the opposite of unworthiness is worthiness? To fix unworthiness, do you have to become worthy?
Maybe, yeah, there is a relationship there. I'm not sure.
Do you think somebody who doesn't feel unworthy feels worthy? Or is it possible that somebody doesn't feel unworthy and neither do they feel worthy? It's just not an issue. So I wonder if the absence of unworthiness is just the absence of unworthiness. It's not worthiness. So I'm kind of pointing to the idea that the unworthiness is something that's been instilled. It's not inherent. It's not something you were born with. You know, David points out as a baby you didn't feel worthiness or unworthiness.
Well, I don't think it's maybe another. I don't think it's the unworthiness that was installed. I think it was the system of value and meaning that was installed, in the sense that to be loved, you have to do something. You have to be something specific. To deserve peace, you have to possess some kind of characteristic. And I think it's this system of belief who is ingrained in us that is causing this unworthiness. Because we put value and meaning in probably the wrong places. Like I see I struggle a lot with worthiness and I'm feeling loved, and when I see my son, he has nothing to do for me to perceive him as valuable in my life, and he can do nothing to withdraw this from me, you know, ever, because it's what it is that is important to me. And I guess it's what is valuable, Fiona. It's what you are. And I know nothing of you, or very little, but I value your presence. And you can have emotions, and your presence is still valuable to me. Sorry, Vince, I interrupt you, but I think it's interesting to perceive it that way, maybe.
Mm? I don't feel interrupted.
Yeah, because you see, what you point to, it's very, very interesting. Like this belief of, because I feel unworthy, the solution is feeling worthy of something. But the other way around can be, what is the system of belief? Why do I value things above others? What is valuable to me, really, you know? And this can be a line of investigation that can be interesting. Because in other society, they value worth in a completely different ways. In our society, it's money and wealth and possession and power. In others, it's very different. It can be family, it can be, you know, religion, it can be very different. So, you know, it's very. Can you see this, Fiona? That it's kind of a system we believe, like a web, like a thought, like a web that is spreading, and it's showing you what is value and what doesn't have value. Can you see this? And what's happening when you see this? When you see this system, this web?
just confuses me. I think there's still grab for a solution.
So is worthiness something about your usefulness to I'm thinking take an Aboriginal culture of say 100 years ago before white men came along, and there's no money involved in their way of life. You know what somebody had a role to play in the mob, and they had a sense of worthiness because they were able to fulfill that role. Right? They were either a hunter or a gatherer or a chief or what, I don't know, what roles they might have used, but fulfilling the role for them gave them a sense of worthiness, and not having a role may well have given them a sense of unworthiness. And I'm asking you, is your sense of unworthiness associated with not having a role? And as a kid, what role could you possibly have that would make you feel worthy?
It looks to me too easy to say that my worthiness is attached to a role. That sort of kind of seems to be surface. I think it's a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I can say about that.
But deeper gives you some kind of direction, eh? Go down, follow that one down. Where does it take you to go deeper? Okay, it's not roles, it's something more fundamental, eh? When you say deeper, do you mean more fundamental?
Maybe because I just feel like I've hashed out this whole work scenario, work situation, because it's not the first time that I've been in a period of unemployment. So it's now a theme. And so I just think that it's too easy for me to grab on to say, yes, it's all about
Mm-hmm.
the role. But when
Okay.
I go deeper, like there's nothing there.
Okay, so tell me about that nothingness. So nothing is something. It's not nothing. It's something. So what's that nothingness that's there? Is it just a blackness? Is it an emptiness? Is it
Yeah,
no
it's a
memory?
void.
Void, yeah. Mm. And if you were to dive into that void, what's the first thing that comes to mind that would happen? And by dive, I mean head first, dive into it. What would happen? First thing that comes to mind.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is resistance.
Right. So you would dive in, but it wouldn't let you in. It would spit you back out.
Well, I can't even dive in.
Right. Mm.
I actually can't physically dive into a pool.
Mm. Because what might happen? First thing.
I'll drown.
Right. Yeah, you'll be consumed. Mm. annihilation. Yeah. Does that sound like the monster under the bed to you?
Well, it sounds like something I would definitely run from.
Mm. In order to avoid annihilation. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I would avoid.
Mm.
I want to ask some question. Are you a thought? Are you the activity of thinking?
No.
No. Are you a sensation? Like, can you say, I am this sensation specifically? Are you the activity of sensing? Take your time. No. Are you the perception? Like what you see, what you hear? You are that?
Yeah.
You are what you see?
Yeah.
What do you see? So tell me more about that.
I see you on my laptop.
But this is what you are?
No.
No. So it's clear to you that you are not the activity of thinking, you are not the activity of sensing, and you are not the perception, even if they are there, but you are not that. So it's clear to you that you are present right now. So you see, when you say, when you disengage with thinking, you feel that you go back into a void. But at the same time, you recognize that you are present and you are not nothing. Can you see this kind of dichotomy, this kind of two different perspectives that they are present? When you disengage with your pain and suffering and story, you feel that you go back into there is nothing there. At the same time, you recognize that you are present. Can you perceive it both?
I think it's challenging for me to perceive it.
To perceive what?
Both of them.
So which one is clearer right now? Which one is more evident to see?
I just get caught up in the sensation.
Yeah, it can be challenging to disengage even more when there is pain or sensation that are more constricted. But what I strongly it can be interesting is to really focus on you are present and your presence is not nothing. Even though you cannot pin precisely what is this presence, but the fact that you are present is a fact and it's not nothing. And I'm saying this because your presence has value just because. But I understand that it's difficult to focus on it right now. I understand. I also want to add a story. Maybe it can be useful because this is what has happened to me. When babies have difficult childhood, it can be emotional difficulties or whatever. The mind of the baby learn to dissociate from itself more and more. And in this dissociation, as an adult, that's what I feel. Maybe it's not your case, but I feel it like all my life, like a void in my chest. Was like a black hole, you know, like it was just always this void, and it was no way to step out of it. So I can. This is how I relate to what we're sharing, and I know it's a very, very deep sensation, and it can arise from dissociation. And the difficulty I had for years with spirituality is I connected a dissociative state with the presence. And it took me years to understand, no, there is presence which is alive, which is this kind of presence of being alive and present and valuable, and there is this sense of being nothing, as in nothing. And right now, I don't know if it's too theory for you or if it makes sense.
I think it sort of touches on a bit of my experience, yeah, the whole disassociation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it can be useful to keep exploring, and also the child and the image of babies are really useful. They're just are just very useful to perceive the past and what we live as a babies. Because babies, we love babies, but they do nothing. It's opposite, you know. They're loud. They shit on you. It's just they're a mess, you know. But somehow there is love and beauty, and we take care of them. So there is something in this innocence that can be useful.
What are you feeling now, Fiona?
A gaping hole in my chest.
What part of your chest?
Just where my sternum is.
Mm-hmm. So what should be there? What should it be filled with, that hole?
Love and light.
Mm?
Not this.
Mm. So that gaping hole sounds a bit like that void. Is there an association there?
Mm.
So if you get that the baby has no sense of worth or worthlessness, how old do you think you were when you started to feel worthless? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Were you still a young baby, or were you an infant, or were you a toddler, or how old were you when you first started to feel that you had no worth? When that hole first appeared in your chest?
I don't know if I could get that descriptive, but what came to mind, like I was still in nappies.
Right, right.
So yeah, pretty
Yeah.
young.
Yep.
But you know, do I have an image of me in my nappies and a gaping
No,
hole in
no,
my chest?
that doesn't matter. No, we're quite happy to just allow whatever fantasy comes up as to be it. Okay, so what might, we don't know. We're not talking about what actually happened or anything. We're just talking about a fantasy. What might have given a baby in nappies a sense of worthlessness? What could have been happening for that baby in nappies to have developed a sense of worthlessness?
Neglect.
Okay. Neglect as in abandoned, or like as in not present, or neglect as in not changing a shitty nappy, or neglect as in letting the baby be hungry, or neglect as in yelling at the baby. That's kind of not neglect, I suppose, is it? But what comes to mind is what could have given a baby at that age a sense of worthlessness. Oh, there you go. What was coming to mind? What came to mind? Go with it. Just don't worry about anything. It's just
Being locked in my room to cry it out.
yes, yeah. Back in those days, we even could imagine that people said it's good for the baby to let it cry. How stupid was that? But yeah, there you go. Yeah, left to just cry and cry and cry and cry and cry yourself to sleep. In the end, cry. Yeah, that's a crazy one, isn't it? Cry yourself to sleep. That means
I
cry
cried
until you're
myself
so
asleep
exhausted.
and I fell asleep behind the door and my mum couldn't even come in.
Right. And how did that resolve? Did she give up, or did she push to the door until you woke up, or what?
I'm not sure. I think that well, it probably didn't weigh much, so I think it was just kind of a bit of a shove.
Mm. And then would she have gone crook on you for that?
Nope. Not that I
Just what?
remember, not that I can recall.
Mm. So what would have happened? Just back in the cot?
Yep.
Go out and shut the door again. Mm. So do you think you were a bit of an imposition?
Yeah.
Mm.
So right now, if you imagine that there were his baby in his nappy is in another room, screaming and crying. What would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
I would go and give it a hug. I would go and be present with it.
Can you just take a moment and find his baby in his nappies in your mind, in your past, all of the moments that this baby have lived at, and just each time you see an image, you just open the door and you do what feels right. You give a hug. And I feel very far from you because I would love to give you a hug and to do a group hug. This is what we have.
We all, I'm speaking for other people too here, but I imagine we all would love to give you a hug, you worthless thing. Could you accept it? Or would you be saying,
Probably
no,
not.
I'm not worth it. Don't do it. Yeah. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Isn't it weird how it becomes scary? To get the very thing that you missed out on, the very thing that you know you need. Fuck.
When I hear your story, I feel so angry. I feel anger. I would have loved to be present and to just kick the door and just, give you a hug and say, there is other ways to raise our children, to be present with. Yeah. There is so much tenderness that is lost, so much. It's really sad. It's a shame. It's so many lost opportunity, to be tender with one another, with our parents. And I'm so sorry that you couldn't have them.
There's a really beautiful thing about this, and that is that because that baby is so young, words themselves, the meaning of words, have no effect on it. The tone of voice does, but words aren't necessary at all, really. If you could go back in time and give that baby, that young Fiona, a hug, if you could hold it tenderly and say, I do care about you. It would be crazy to even say you are worth something or that you are not worthless, because it wouldn't understand the words, would it? But it would certainly understand being held tenderly and comforted. And that's a meditation that I'd really like you to do a few times, at least a few times, is to just imagine going back to that baby behind the door and picking it up and just holding it how you want to be, not holding it in any artificial way, but holding it in the way you would hold that baby that David talked about in the next room that was crying, that needed to be held and hugged. That you imagine yourself doing that to young Fiona, picking her up from behind the door and just holding her warmly, closely, lovingly, giving her everything that you have to give, which is just abundant love. Everything that could fill that hole in your chest is there to give that baby. Would you do that once a day for the next week or so? For no end result, just to feel good. That's all. And whatever you experience when you do that, doesn't matter what it is, communicate that to the baby through your hug, through your holding, through your feelings. Not you can use words, but remember it's the tone of voice rather than the meaning of the words that the baby will hear, will respond to.
And I will even go to, we can buy a fake baby. I spent 3 months with my own with a baby toy and sleeping with him and taking care of a fake baby. I mean, it's laughable, but at the moment, it's not a joke. You know, it's because it make it tangible. Not only a thought, you can really feel the weight and feel the shape. It can be a teddy bear or whatever. To me, it was very helpful to make it like physical.
Yeah. In the place, the retirement, the nursing home, I guess it was, where my mother spent her last years with dementia, in that ward, they had those babies, and they were incredibly lifelike and amazing. You know, and so many of the old women just sat around holding those babies, and just it was so beautiful to watch. You know, the connection between them and those babies was just really tangible. Yeah, lovely.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you. I really, well, we all I think we can, like Vince said, there's just real love here. I was exactly where you were a couple of weeks ago in a call with Vince. But I just wanted to say this word. I did this session the other day, like a somatic session, and within it, the woman who was leading the session, she used this word havening. It's like a somatic technique of actually holding yourself and like literally giving yourself those hugs. Literally, I get that this is the whole process is, I don't know, like when David mentioned literally you can have a baby there. It's like you can literally hug. Hold. Yeah. That part. That beautiful innocence.
And not to detract one little bit from your experience, you know, I reckon every one of us has gone through a version of that. You know, especially the older ones amongst us. It was the way our parents were brought up. I mean, they were quite innocent in their way of doing it, but that's the way they were taught, and that's the way they did it. That's what my parents did, for sure. Don't pick the baby up, you'll spoil it. Let it cry. It's good for it. Bullshit. It was common in our society, really common.
Yeah, you know, I can still feel it, you know, in my day-to-day when I spend time with my son, just hugging or reading a story or playing, which I never did with my father, any of those. Sometimes I feel like a deep sadness or nostalgia, like, oh, so much lost opportunity, you know, to connect with my father, you know, to do not just simple activities, you know, that was impossible for him, you know, and I just feel this in me, you know, just pouring out of me at the same time that I have this pleasure of sharing, you know. So it's true, it's deep and yeah.
There was a situation recently, a young man about your own age, Fiona, and he traced.
Put your microphone up, Alan.
Right. Situation recently where a young man about your generation, Fiona, and suffered from severe depression, and he traced it back to a similar situation to yours. And coincidentally, he was having lunch with his mother a couple of days later, and unsolicited, she started to tell him about the advice that the maternal nurse had given her, which was to put him down at night and not go in until the morning. And, you know, your heart aches for parents when they realise that they were being misguided. And we just talked about the pain that his mother could experience if she realised what she had contributed to so unwittingly. So this is a pandemic, I think, that we're all navigating.
Yep. Dr. fucking Spock. Do you remember Dr. Spock? That was around. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
It's difficult, you know. I have friends who still hold those theories, you know, that you know, it's good to let it cry, it's good to, and sometimes I find myself in a difficult position because, you know, I cannot criticize another, you know, another parent or another for his choice, but at the same time, I feel it's a terrible thing to do on the for the baby. So this is what's happening.
Mm.
Okay, I have
I
to go.
would happen
Bye-bye.
to-
It was a pleasure.
I happened to see a little video yesterday of a man holding a baby, a very young baby. I think it was only a few weeks old, and he was holding it in the crook of his arm like this, and the baby was screaming. And he just turned to him and he just started to, oh. Baby just completely just, oh, I could just see, just completely relaxing and just almost being blissed out by this. And it was just so beautiful because that is exactly what I've always wanted from my mother. I never got. I just kept watching it over and over again yesterday. It was just so beautiful. Because she just used to leave me at the end of the garden screaming in my pram, and she'd just go in and shut the door so she couldn't even hear me screaming.
But the other side of it, of course, was that she didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to cope. She didn't know. It wasn't that she was depriving you. She was just responding to her own sense of helplessness.
Yeah.
So sad in both directions, wasn't it? Wow.
Talking about this feeling of unworthiness. Yeah, I once did a psychotherapy, and actually it was my father had died, and then this subject was like quite okay after 1 year, and then the therapist made me ask my mom if she could send some photos by post to me of me when I was a child. And then I noticed that it was really difficult for me to look at those photos because I really this child because I was bullied as a child, and I guess I was kind of very vulnerable, not thinking of anything bad to happen, and actually like a very good character, but I never defended myself. I always thought it was my fault and that I was wrong or there was something wrong with me. So I think when I was like a teenager, I never wanted to look back. I never wanted to embrace this child that I had been. So I think working with photos of you when you were a little girl, Fiona, could also help to, I don't really know what's your relationship with, the version of you when you were a child, but sometimes it's necessary to first make friends with the child you were. And that's, for me, it worked like by looking at photos of me and like accepting the way I was back then and seeing that there were really good things about this child. Like,
The one thing you mentioned there, Leonard, that you thought it was you took the blame, and this children do this. Every child will end up saying it's their fault, whatever happened. That's how it becomes intrinsic. They take responsibility for what goes on around them. They believe it because as a child, we're the center of the universe. And so it must be our fault. Of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it turned in a different direction when I was like a teenager or around 20. That's like, it was rather like I started to be very arrogant and thinking all the others are stupid anyway, and I'm the most intelligent. So it was, but that's actually also a result of a lack of self-worth, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know,
of
but
course. Yeah.
it always has to do like this thing about worth. It's always a comparison to others. It's like I'm better than others, I'm worse than others, or even I'm as good as others. So none of it is really the case. I mean, I also feel, I mean, I don't know if you would put it like this in English. Now I really feel unworthy as well, but in the sense that there is no worth in this character Leonard, you know, it's not there.
Mm. Yep. The whole idea of worth isn't made up. It isn't just an idea. Yeah. We have to discover that. Oh boy, you came into something pretty heavy, Shane. Where are you up to on this journey?
I haven't popped in here before. So I'm just listening. But when you ask that question, what do you mean?
Have you, well, why are you here? That might be the better way to put it. What brought you here?
I was watching some awakening curriculum videos.
Okay, with Penilla. So why were you watching them? What brought you to watch them?
Well, I watched that kind of thing like a lot. So that was, yeah, for quite a long time. Years.
Yep. So you would describe yourself as a seeker, on a spiritual path? Would you put it that way?
I guess so. Like, I don't really mind how people want to describe it, but
It's a shitty description, but yeah.
I suppose that makes sense. And then I think I came here because I mainly watch and listen to lots of that kind of content, basically for the reason that it calms me. And that's been pretty consistent for many years with that kind of content, and I've sort of had to shift what it is. For about 3 years now, it's been Samaniri Jayasara's channel, the Australian Buddhist nun. I don't know if you've heard of her before.
No.
But I think I came here because, like, I don't know. I guess I felt like I wanted to discuss something instead of just listening, because I don't really talk about this with anybody. It's just like in my head. And so, as you all know, when you go and talk to somebody about what you think, your beliefs, of what reality is, how you think politics works or something like that, when the words come out of your mouth, then you start learning about yourself more. And then also, obviously, just listening to people, getting their perspective. So does that make sense? That's why I came here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, you're in the right place. You're right in the middle of a bunch of weirdos that we just love talking about this kind of stuff. No worries. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So what you said you had some a question or something in particular that you wanted to?
No, not really. No,
Okay.
no. You're in hospital, are you?
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
That's no good.
That's all right. That's only a minor procedure. I get in the morning, they'll stick a pipe down my throat. That's all, and have a look.
Right.
So your accent Australian?
Yeah, I live in Canberra.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, we've got 4 Australians here today. Then that's pretty something, isn't it? Yeah. Alan's in Melbourne. Fiona's in Wodonga. I'm up in Newcastle normally, but I'm in Sydney at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to live in Canberra, Shane.
Oh, yeah. You escaped then?
I did before the pandemic, tried to move to Melbourne. That didn't really work out for me, did it?
Right. I did live there for a few years. Yeah. Yeah. And where are others from?
England, Germany. I don't know where are you, Kenneth? Are you in America or in India? Canada. Okay. Stelios, you were in Europe
Greece.
somewhere, I guess. Greece.
Greece.
Yeah. Ramiz is in Egypt. And I don't know where Rose is. Rosie's in England, I suspect. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
If that's the same Rose that I know, she's in Manchester.
Right.
I don't know.
Could be. Doing that. But yeah, we're all over the world, and every meeting is people from everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in this one for the first time as well, Shane. Whatever that means, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So Vince, how do you do the meetings get directed in any way? Or does everyone just turn up and then whoever wants to
that
say
one.
something, say something?
Yep. Yeah, there's no rules and there's no formality at all. Yeah. So I mean we're all on a spiritual path, for want of a better way to put it. And some are awake and some are not yet there. That sounds really stupid, doesn't it? But yeah. Oh, I felt really bad saying that. Yeah. But yeah, we're there. Yeah, well, of course. Yeah. Anyway, it's about awakening. It's about waking up, I guess, mostly. But that's a catch-all. You know, that's pervasive. That goes through everything. So yeah, maybe it's more appropriate to say it's about not suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what, I'm here because I'm a connection junkie. I just really love feeling this strong sense of connection with people, or even more accurate, I'm an intimacy junkie, and I really get to feel really intimate with people here. So, you know, that happens. It's not the aim of it. It just happens. I get to practice being authentic and spontaneous and not care what shit comes out of my mouth. You know, it just happens. sharing experience is what it's about, I guess, which seems to be.
Vince, I would say that a way to put it is some people here are confused and some others not so confused. But listening or talking to each other, it really helps. Saying I'm here for the same reason, I don't know exactly why I'm here, but only to be here, it helps because, as you said, in your ordinary life, you don't have people to talk for this stuff. So this is really helpful only to be here.
Yeah.
Mm. It's kind of weird because we talk about stuff that I was going to say is unspeakable, but that puts a different connotation on it. We talk about stuff that words can't really do justice to.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So, Shane, you got to this meeting a fair while after we started it. It's 5:15. We started it back at 3 o'clock, which
Yeah.
is fine. There's no problems with that at all. But if you want to send me your email or put your email in the chat, I'll put you on the list and you'll get notifications about when they are. They're at the same time every week. And I've got 3 going at different times of the day to try and cover the world, the time zones of the world.
Yeah. You did mention the times. I just came like when I got home. Basically.
Yeah, no worry. Oh, right. Okay. I do remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then because you said it didn't really matter if you just popped in.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. See, my memory's so bad, I don't remember talking to somebody 2 days ago, so it's like, but that just reminded me that we emailed and had that came up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. So what are you pondering, Charmaine?
I was just on a little journey then around routine and structure. And I think I was just like, there was a thought around, am I going to go to the gym? It just went off, and then it was like noticing how the mind wants to like make a routine out of something. And I was just with that, like trying to put pointlessly, could see it just trying to put a structure into the day. What time will this happen? And then I was just noticing it doing that, and then like letting it go again, like just this need for the structure,
Mm.
trying to be in a routine. And I was just feeling that like it's not like a comfortable feeling, like trying to plan and make it into something today. And just yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only way to describe it, really. I was just
Yeah, well, I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's become a bit of an issue for me with not remembering things
Yeah.
and using my calendar and that way. But it does seem like I go through the day and I go to put my shoes on and there where my shoes sit, and on my way to that something else jumps in front of me and that takes me off to the side and I get that done, and then
Yeah.
maybe later I'll think about the shoes and head back towards them. But like all day I'm just led by whatever jumps up in front of me.
Mm.
But because I use a calendar, that I get that jumps up in front of me, and that gives me it seems like that gives me some structure. It doesn't actually. It
Mm-mm.
just is what is the thing that jumps up in front of me, Otherwise I'd never turn up to a meeting on time. I wouldn't know anything about it. But yeah. Yeah. But the imposition of a structure certainly is an interesting one, isn't it? That does
Mm.
something.
Yeah, like it's trying to put it in place, because I'm just in this really unusual for me place right now where I haven't got anything to do, and it's the first time probably ever in life that it's been like this, and then I keep noticing where something's trying to make it into something, structure and routine, even joining the gym and then trying to get a routine out of that, like it, and I just keep trying to drop through it, like stop, and see what happens. Like if it's not like, okay, just free fall today and see, and just
Yeah.
see, like,
I mean, it's
uh,
easy to see how structure could be a diversion from what comes up, what is going on in the body, what our inclinations are.
definitely.
And I feel one of the things I've been going to bring up at your meeting is about the fetters and the promise that the structured nature of the fetters offer is
Mm,
to diversion. It
yeah,
is a way of projecting into the future all the time instead of being present. Yeah. They're
yeah,
useful, of course. They have their uses, but to get obsessed about them is something else altogether.
yeah, yeah. Using the fetters in that way as a kind of a infrastructure or something. I don't know.
But you can see
Something.
that the attraction of them is the structure that they offer.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
As if it's a map to somewhere.
Yeah. And how frequently do we mistake the map for the territory?
Mhm.
Mm.
Means for me the last few days, there are some heavy feelings come and go, and I feel there is a little bit of doubt coming back. And then I catch myself trying to stop and look. But this also feels like an effort of me doing it. So if I don't do it, it feels like bypassing. If I say, okay, now I'll observe what is going on, it feels like I'm in control.
Mm.
So
Yeah. You're fucked no matter what you do. Yeah. So I always say it's not about what comes up. It's about what triggers them. So it's not about the doubts. It's about what triggered the doubt. Why did they turn up? What happened that excited that line of thinking or whatever it is.
Yeah. But there are some moments that you seek for that trigger and some others not.
Mm.
So the way I see it now is that if it puts the attention to seek for what it is, this is what it is. If not,
Yeah.
this is what it is, and maybe it's bypassing, but this is what it is, because in the previous months, I was really trying and trying and trying, and this was totally not good.
Yeah. Just to be clear about the bypassing, the bypassing is when you come to a logical conclusion that because there is no self, then this shouldn't be there, and then it goes away because of that mental process. That's what bypassing is. And it's kind of skipping over what caused it to be there to say, well, there's no reason for it to be there, and that makes it go away. So it does work in the short term bypassing, but it doesn't fix the reason, what brought it on in the first place. And but it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because no matter what you do, that is what is. And so if you put effort, then that's what is.
Yeah.
The only thing to do if you're able to do something is to see it, to watch it.
Yeah. Maybe
now
on this
that changes it. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, maybe on these moments, that you are a little bit lost in this situation, you might see it 5 seconds later or 5 minutes later. But when you see it, you see, okay, that was it was happening.
Yeah.
But
so not that it was nothing. No, you go, oh, I'm a little bit lost. Isn't that interesting? What are the circumstances that stimulated that? What's going on underneath? That's the attitude. Curiosity is the attitude.
Yeah.
That is most productive. Yeah, don't try and fix anything.
Yeah,
that's another way of escaping it. Here it is. Here it is. There's me selfing. What's going on? Yeah.
I'll try to remember that. Curiosity is the key, but you cannot force yourself to remember it.
Well, that's right.
But
you either
it's
remember or you
it's a
don't.
good
That's
thing.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Thank you.
And it's always interesting when doubt comes along to acknowledge that there's doubt. And when you look at what might have triggered it, you might also see you don't want to get carried away by it, but you might also see what is the doubt actually about. So doubt's not a thing, it's a response to something, right? And we often mistake what the response is to. We'll usually look at something outside of ourselves and say, that's what it's about. But it's never about what's outside of ourselves. It's always about our response to something else. And then the response to that is the doubt. If you follow that one, that's a bit convoluted.
Yeah. When there is doubt, let me know if this is the right approach, right? Or I don't know. But the way I respond when there is doubt, I go back to the senses to see what is going on in the body.
Yeah.
But maybe I can stay with the senses for a long time and there is no conclusion about it.
Yeah, that may be the case too. Yeah. If it doesn't resolve, then I would suspect that the way you were staying with the senses is not as skillful as it could be. That's, you know,
Yeah.
putting it that way. Yeah. So the way to stay with the senses, with the sensation in the body, is to not engage with the stories that it's about, but get closer and closer to the sensation and get underneath any labels that might come up about what it is and where it is and what the nature of it is and so on. So by getting underneath those labels, we get to a point where we're feeling it, but it's just too complicated and too subtle and too complex in order to be able to describe. You could never even begin to describe it. When you get that close to the sensation, it will almost always change. If it seems to be sitting there and not changing, then you could move closer to it. Get in, feel the subtlety of it more. Because it's never still, it's never static. It's always changing. Yeah.
And also it depends the days. There are some days that you are skillful to it and you can stay with us. And some days you cannot. It's like Star Wars stories keep coming up that they make no sense.
Yeah. That's right. And that's okay too. You know, that's just what it is.
And can I ask you something else here? When I dive into senses, attention moves. Maybe it goes from a feeling to something I hear. If I have my eyes open to something I see. Should I stay completely in the senses in the body or everything is senses?
No, there's absolutely no shoulds. Okay, so if your attention moves, you go, okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Look what's happening, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting away from the sensation. My senses are an excuse for me to divert.
Okay, so this is diversion.
Yeah,
Let's say that
your attention's not on the sensation anymore. It's up on what you're hearing or what you're seeing, which is a way of getting away from the sensation.
okay, so I thought hearing or seeing, it's also a sensation.
Well, it is, but we were looking at the sensation in your body somewhere, and all of a sudden you're distracted by what's going on from another sense.
Okay, so do not force it. Okay, there is distraction. What is happening?
Yeah, it's just a distraction is what is happening. That's right. And isn't that interesting? And that will bring you back to, very likely, that will bring you back to what you were distracting from. So then you look at the sensation, and when you come back to it after the distraction is recognized, it'll probably be different. You'll go, oh, okay, that was starting to feel a bit something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually we get distracted when it starts to get uncomfortable.
When it gets to become uncomfortable, I think that maybe because the body wants to move, and I have stayed to this state for a long time. But is this what is happening, or is it a distraction?
It's hard to say. Yeah, if the body wants to move, it's likely a distraction. But sometimes the body wants to move because you've been sitting there for a long time. See, this whole process of getting in touch with your sensation, that's not going to take an hour. That's a few minutes. And if they're sitting there for an hour, then it's reasonable that your body wants to move. But if you're also sitting there for an hour, it's also saying, well, that's a way of not getting close to my sensation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask something because I had, a slight confusion about bypassing as well. I still have some compulsive behaviors that have to do with selfing as well. And there is the seeing, but I don't have any control about it. And then many times it's like, then yeah, there is like this being annoyed, like, oh, again. And I mean, I would prefer not seeing it at the moment that it's happening, because it's kind of really strange, because I know I see what it is, or there is the seeing of it, but it happens anyway, and there's no control, which is anyway also kind of a good experience somehow. I can see something good in that as well, but then yeah, 2 weeks ago, I just kind of gave up, and I just started to not make a problem out of it anymore. And in the beginning, it felt like, but if I don't make a problem out of it, isn't it bypassing? But I think I was confused about because there is the seeing of it, so that's not bypassing, but still I can't take action, but I can see that those behaviors are not as strong as they used to be. So there is kind of really a process that is getting less. It's really weird but I'm kind of okay with this, just accepting it, not making a big problem out of it, not thinking like, but we have to do something against it because it will make things even worse. And then there is this big contraction of, I should not do that.
Yeah. So shoulds and shouldn'ts are not appropriate at all. But at the same time, that you see it and you do it anyway. I mean, if that's what happens, that's fine, right? And so we don't need a label of bypassing or not or anything like that. That's really irrelevant. If you're seeing it and you're doing it anyway, and what you're seeing is a diversion from something, then it may be that you're so how can I put it? What we want when we do this kind of work is we want just the right amount of juice to be able to investigate what it's about. If we don't get enough juice, we don't go there. If we get too much juice, we run away, right? And when you're seeing it and you're doing it anyway, it's because there's too much juice. Right? So what you have to do is work out how to be more gentle with yourself, how to take smaller steps to go closer to it. And so you don't want to excite it to the point where you've just got to do it anyway. What you want to do is, how can I put it? Take it to the lab, take it to the laboratory, so to speak, sit down and imagine the situation rather than wait for the actual situation to turn up. And then when you can feel something happening as a result of the imagining of it, right, then go into the sensations and see what's going on. And that way you haven't got it so big that you're just going to do it anyway. Right? It's just because you're only imagining it, but you need to imagine it enough to get a bit of an emotional response to it. Just enough to work with, but not too much, not too little. The Goldilocks amount. Yeah.
The thing, it's really at the moment, if I have to label it, it's really boredom, but it's not really accurate either for it. But
tricky one, boredom. Yeah.
Similar, Leonard. At the bottom line is
it
Yeah,
it
yeah.
feels so dull, you know, that it's difficult to dig in it. It's like yeah,
Yeah.
it's or to dive into it is a bit difficult because there is not a lot happening, you know. So
Yeah. Which is a great escape, isn't it? It's a beautiful escape, you know. Yeah, nothing happening when nothing going on here, but there is, you know, there is.
yeah, there is. It's just
Yeah.
like there is kind of an aversion to look at it in
Yeah,
detail.
yeah, yeah. Because and this is purely intellectual stuff, but because the likelihood is that if you did get right into it, it would seem like annihilation again. It would seem like it's you that monster under the bed is going to get you. That's why we keep away from these things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will still take a lot of time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Time might be an issue. Time might be part of it. Yeah. But you know, with this stuff, with all of this stuff that we're doing, we're playing with time. We collapse time in a way. It's kind of a bit of a weird one, that one. But yeah, we often bring the past into the present when we do that, um, which is really interesting stuff. Um, One of the fetter techniques, if you're working with fetters 4 and 5, that is useful, that might be useful under those circumstances. If you find it difficult to imagine the situation that gets enough juice there to work with, you construct a sentence that describes the situation. You know, particularly if it involves another person, you make up a sentence about them, and then you bring it back to yourself. You know, so if it's boredom, you can make a sentence of, you know, oh, I'm bored, you know, and you look for the feeling underneath that, and so on. Or it may be the opposite. You may go, well, I should be doing something. That might be what'll get things going for you. Or you can join the gym and escape that way. Sorry, Shemaine, I couldn't help that. And watching what the mind does when there are silences, that's always interesting too.
Yeah, the strange thing is that I would say it's the first time in my life that I think everything's fine, but then the mind pops in and says like, no, that's not possible. Where's the next problem?
Yeah.
For me, Vince, I can have many times that there is stillness in the mind, and then I see attention moves, and I am confused if whatever sees where attention moves, if it's the eye. I don't know if that makes sense. There is stillness in the mind, and then attention goes to vision, and then to some bodily sensations, then to some hearing, and I can see it changes and moving. And there is a thought wondering who or what is following attention. Because I can see
Yeah.
attention moving on its own, but what is following attention? What is realizing? Because even after some milliseconds, there is a realization. Oh, now it's in a sound, now it's in a vision.
Mhm. But the question, who is doing it? Who is following it? Who is it happening to? Makes about as much sense as, do unicorns fly? Do fish talk? You know, that it's, you can't answer that question. You know, like you can't answer whether there is a who or a what that is following it, whether there is actually following, or is that just another thought about following?
It is another
What
book, yeah.
Yeah, what you can experience is that there is seeing and there is hearing. And even if you were to say hearing came after seeing, you're in fantasy land again. You're overlaying a concept. You're overlaying this idea of time or of sequence that happened before
Okay.
that, right? But one is a memory and one is an experience.
Okay, so everything happens simultaneously at the same time, and when there is attachment to attention, there is a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is very strange to describe. I have a question that I cannot really put in words. There are some times that when there is no attention. Is that possible?
I don't know about
It
no
it feels
attention.
like I'm distracted, but it feels like I'm in very presence to I don't know what. And when I try to pinpoint it, it gets, or now my attention goes there. And sometimes there is no attention to something specific. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. So use the word focus instead of attention. And is
Okay.
it the same thing? So if there is focus on the experience of hearing, is that saying the same thing as there is attention on hearing?
I think it's the same.
Hmm. So let's change it again then, and let's get rid of the nouns. Let's say there is focusing on hearing. I am paying it. No, there is paying attention to hearing. then we're not talking about attention or focus. What we're talking about is experiencing thoughts about something. Would that be accurate?
Yes. If so, that goes back to my previous question. When there is noticing of attention, it's a thought,
Yes.
right?
Well, it's yeah, it's yes and no. Yeah, see, there can be noticing of an experience, which is also an experience, but it becomes a thought when we describe it, even if we're describing it to ourselves. So that there can be noticing of hearing, but the moment you say there is noticing of hearing, that's the thought.
Yeah, that's a thought. Yeah.
Yeah. But the
And
actual noticing is just another experience.
no, yeah. If there is no attachment to the noticing, just noticing happen of hearing, right?
Yes. So any attachment to it is selfing, which
Is
is back in concept land. It's saying, well, it's my hearing
yeah, yeah.
or my noticing or whatever. Yeah.
And wait, because an aeroplane is coming. So I described it before, but it's really hard to describe. There are some times that it feels like attention is to several places at the same time. Can this happen?
Yeah. I don't know. I suspect not. Can you see that Vince's Fathom note taker on your screen?
What again?
On your screen, have you got one of the pictures of a people, and there's one there that says Vince's Fathom note taker. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you see that there are two faces looking at each other in that?
Yep.
Can you see that if you get rid of the faces, can you see that there's a vase in between, right?
Yeah.
Can you see the vases and the faces at the same time? Or is your experience that you flip back and forward between them?
I think it's milliseconds of back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. So I
So you
suspect
can,
it's the same thing with that.
okay. So it's
Your question.
my attention moving very fast to milliseconds of it, because I can feel a sense, I can feel hearing, I can feel seeing with no really attention to it.
Yeah.
And it feels real, but I cannot pinpoint it. And I say if it's possible, but possibly it's that it's moving
Yeah.
very, very fast.
Yeah. So then try this. Look at that. Look at those faces in that vase, and then defocus. Just let your focus get really soft. And when you're seeing, when you get it soft enough, you will see both at once, but they will be then neither faces nor a vase. They will be, maybe they'll just be colors or shapes. But you won't, in order for them to be faces or a vase, there has to be a mental input, a mental overlay that says faces, vase, faces, vase. And that's why it's the labeling of faces, vase that means that we flip back and forward between them. But when they're neither faces nor vases, because you're not seeing them clearly and you're not labeling them, then you do see both at once. But you're not seeing them as faces or vases.
But
So you're experiencing two things at once could happen as long as they're not something that you're experiencing.
Okay,
Right. So
that's good.
when your experience gets below labels, it's the senses meld into each other. The senses become not one or the other,
Okay.
but you can feel sound and you can see hearing. You can
Okay,
see. Yeah, it's like they
start to make sense now.
merge a bit. Yeah. It's only in our head that we separate them and keep them separate.
Yeah. Because as I said, when this happens, but I cannot really put a question to describe it, it feels real. It feels
Yeah. And so when you put the question to it, you've got to define it again.
you have to divide it, yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. And then the mind have another question that is this what we are looking for and how I can be more into this. But okay, this is a
My face is going to burst. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. When we, that's why it's ridiculous to say, well, I'm awake. That's a ridiculous statement, totally ridiculous. It's putting a definition and an outline on something that can't be defined. And so wanting more, what do I want more of? You know, of course there's a feeling of always more. You know, I've never had enough ice cream. No matter how much I've eaten, I want more. You know, but you know that it's yeah. So seeking energy, it comes and goes, it fluctuates and so on. You know, and do we reach a point where it doesn't appear? Maybe for a while, maybe it comes back, maybe it goes again. I don't know. Yeah, my experience is yes and no, yes and no, yes and no.
So your experience it's always fluctuating.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
But the strength of it too, you know, so there's the intensity of it, you know. So right at the moment, I'm pretty happy with where things are, and there's not much seeking energy.
Yeah.
If I get into my thoughts, I can possibly get into a state where I go, well, you know, I could be better at something or other. And then I kind of see what I've done and I start laughing. It's it's pretty funny. Mm. And one of the tests for me, one of the ones that I really like is that I have no idea which fetters have fallen, if any. And so I have no desire to measure where I'm up to using that particular ruler, that particular measuring tape. And so, in fact, the whole idea of any measuring tape becomes rather ridiculous because it is just what it is, just what it is. Yeah. It's much more relevant to say, do I suffer? And I can't remember
Yeah.
feeling suffering, you know. Yeah.
That makes sense because when there is no seeking, there is no need for analysis at all. When there is the need, the energy of seeking, then you have to go back to the fetters and search a little bit more. And I can notice these that there are periods.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
periods there
definitely.
is no need to do anything. As you said, okay, this is good enough, or don't analyze it. And then something comes back, and then okay, you start looking at the feathers again.
Yeah.
And the truth with the feathers is, yeah.
Yeah.
Continue.
It's also interesting that when something comes up that doesn't excite seeking energy in me, but it does excite curiosity. What is happening? Yeah. And if I discover something, and I did that about a month ago, I discovered something that where I was selfing, and it felt good that I saw through it, and it went away, and it hadn't been back. So I figured that, well, that's good. It hadn't been back so far, is probably all I can say. But and that felt pretty good. But you know, I didn't need to pat myself on the shoulder about that. It's just part of what goes on, you know. Yeah. So in a
I
way,
think
I'm the
this is
worst person.
what?
In a way, I'm the worst person to work with people who are suffering, because I can't remember suffering. But at the same time, I do feel great compassion when I come across people who are suffering. So I don't remember suffering, but I remember that I suffered. I mean, I suffered a heap as a kid. You know, I remember that, but I can't remember what it felt like. I just remember that it happened. And it kind of feels like it was somebody else in a weird way. Yeah, but sorry, I interrupted you, Stelia. Yeah.
I have no idea what I was about to say.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Don't remember. Yeah, that the distinction. Now I realize that it's a good distinction that between seeking and curiosity. That's it. A
Yes.
really great distinction. Seeking and curiosity.
Yeah, yeah. Curiosity is great. Yeah, I will wait and see what arises. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know what I'm looking for, just wait. And seeking is I'm waiting for something, I'm looking for something.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
totally different.
Seeking
Yeah.
is definitely about the future. Yeah.
About the future.
Well, we've just come up to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Everybody must have full bladders by now.
Some of us might have turned our cameras off and gone to the toilet.
Well, I just had a quick look at the Liberation Unleashed forum, and for the first time I've ever seen it, there's nobody there waiting for a guide. That's pretty unusual. Usually there'll be somewhere between 5 and 20 people waiting for a guide to pick them up. Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. So I want everybody to be a guide for a while at least. It's good for you, and it's good for the people who are seeking.
I'm
Lots of
thinking about it.
discoveries. Yeah, good.
For myself, I'm thinking about it. I feel I have the need to do it, but there is also a small doubt that am I ready for this? Maybe I destroy the other person. I don't know.
Yeah. Everybody goes through that one. Yeah, yeah. And let me tell you, if you have the perspective that you have as somebody who's passed and woken up, that's all you need to guide, you know, because it's really obvious when a seeker is confusing concept with what is actual. And that's all your job is to teach them the difference, to not teach them, to help them to discover the difference between concept and what is actual. And when they do that, they straight away can see that self is just a concept.
Anyway, I guess it's easier to see that in another person than in yourself, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, all right, let's wind up for the day, eh? Everybody happy about that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Al, for starting this meeting today. That was I didn't, up until a minute before 3, I didn't know whether I was going to be able to or not. So I'm
Right.
pleased you were here. Thank you.
No, that's good. That's good. So we'll see how the recording should be there, and thanks for triggering me on that, Vince.
Yep, no worries. I'll download it and process it and put it up on YouTube. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, lovely to see everybody, and much love to you all. And thank you, Fiona, for opening your heart. It's you never know who you'll touch.
Well, I know you'll touch lots of people. Yeah. You will.
Sending so much love to you all.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Just beautiful.
Mm.